So, as you all know, we recently celebrated the retirement of the incomparable Megan Rapinoe. Her last regular season home match broke the all-time NWSL record, the attendance record. It was the most watched NWSL match in history. We are seeing records broken across women's collegiate and professional sports, which is just a testament to what happens when we actually invest in women's sports. Here now to lead a conversation on investing in our athletes, fans, and employees is the Emmy Award-winning sports broadcaster, author, and cooking show host, and superstar from Root Sports and friend, Jen Mueller.
That is a fun introduction, and it is always fun to be here. I know that Joyce asked how many first-timers we have in the room, but how many returners do we have in the room who have been to this breakfast? How many go all the way back to the very beginning, before we were in a room this size? I think my colleague Angie and I think we hosted that one 11 years ago, and I have been proud to be a part of, I think all but maybe 13? Did I don't ask me to do numbers. They really told me there was gonna be no math today. I love the conversation that we have had so far, and I am going to invite our two panelists to join me on the stage. I am in my 15th season on the Seahawks sideline as their radio sideline reporter. I've been on the Mariners television broadcast for Root Sports for, I think it is year 17. And the way that I got into sports broadcasting, well, I tell people this: sports fit my personality and broadcasting fit my skill set. I can talk a lot, and I am ultra competitive. In fact, I am so competitive, it is the only thing that could possibly explain why I refuse to make multiple trips into the house when I'm unloading groceries, right? And even though I hate folding the laundry and emptying the dishwasher, I set a timer just to see if I can beat my best time. I would love to know that I am not the only one. I would love to know that this is not just a characteristic that I have, because we are all super competitors. So Sandy Cross and Jessica Berman are going to help me with this conversation. Sandy, I want you to tell me that I am not alone. Where does your competitive nature come out?
You are so not alone. I am very competitive loading the dishwasher. I am determined to load it with precision, put as much in there as possible. Literally that, I don't know what it's called, the silverware or utensil basket, like the forks are together, the spoons are together, the knives are together, because it makes the unloading so much easier. So I'm super into that. I can give you some more examples, but I'll start there because you went to the dishwasher.
Yes, it's efficiency, right? I want efficiency in my movements. That's how I win. Yep. Jessica, see if you can top that.
I immediately was captivated by the Hamilton show, and in particular when Alexander Hamilton said he was racing against time. That's how I feel every minute of every day. Like, how can I pack the most things in, work-wise, but also personally with my kids? And then it's like, hurry up and relax, hurry up and work out, and everything is like scheduled to the minute. But mostly, if I had to name the thing that is uniquely competitive to me, I'm a competitive sleeper. I track and am a celebrator of how many hours of sleep I can get in a night, which is super important, by the way. I am a sleep worshiper, so I'm a competitive sleeper, and it is my desire to do that when I retire. I want to donate my sleep activity to a researcher so that the world can benefit from my sleep habits.
Not only am I now convinced that I am not alone, but that I need to raise my game in competition. I mean, my gosh. What I love, though, is that we all use our competitive nature to do good in the world. We use it to innovate, to come up with solutions, to make better teams. Sandy, as the Chief People Officer of PGA of America, who first helped you lean into the idea of investing in people?
So without question, it was my parents. Both of my parents really were servant leaders, and we didn't talk about investing people in the household. In our household, we didn't talk about it, but I saw it at every turn. They were constantly investing in us They were investing in the community, particularly with youth. They were investing in our church. My dad in particular led with this others first mindset. Always the other person first, trying to put himself in their shoes, and just every way through his words, his actions. So that was really my inspiration. And to this day, I try to carry that others first mindset forward in my everyday life and caring for our people at the PGA of America. It was really my inspiration.
And we'll get into what that looks like in just a second, but Jessica, what experience fueled your passion to invest in athletes?
Well, I think growing up, having always desired to work in professional sports because I view it as a tool to bring communities together and believe that sport has the power to change the world, which is why I really appreciate and applaud the Seattle Sports Commission mission. I have spent most of my career working on behalf of men, with men, for men, in men's sports. And 18 months ago, when I had the opportunity to have my horizon open to the possibility of what it would mean if I applied my values on behalf of women, I really reflected on the fact that everything that male athletes have achieved is incredible, but has also happened over many decades and through a system that actually invested in them by default without a lot of intentionality. And so realizing that we had this incredible, unique opportunity to apply all the things that really come as second nature to men in sports in particular, there was an opportunity to infuse that in female athletes was really what has inspired me for the last 18 months in my new role.
And we'll get into some of those numbers in just a second, but Sandy, you mentioned PGA of America. The very first thing I think about is the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour, and I had to do some research to find out that's not exactly what you do. You are Chief People Officer for a professional organization, for professional resources.
Absolutely, I'll describe it because it's little known and regularly confused on the daily. We actually used to be one organization with the PGA Tour. We spun them off in 1968 and we licensed our name or our letters to the PGA Tour, but we are actually a professional trade association. We recruit, train, and develop men and women who want to have a career in the business of sport. Many of them are excellent players, but they're focused on teaching and coaching, golf operations, executive management at more than 10,000 golf facilities around America. So these are your local golf professionals, club professionals at facilities. Now we do own and operate some major championships, the Ryder Cup, the PGA Championship, the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, which will be here next summer in June at Sahali Country Club. But yes, professional trade associations serving our members and growing participation in the sport of golf is why we exist.
So Jessica, you've got a very different business model that you are looking at. The number that I have highlighted here is $796 million. That is the value of the 12 NWSL teams based on recent Sportico data. So what does that tell you about what happens when you invest in women and in a women's league?
So you did math, actually. You added all of the valuations that...
Thanks for making me feel good.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. You did math. I'm proud of you. So, yeah, recently it was reported by Sportico. Those are not our figures. We did not validate or collaborate with them on the report, but it certainly was an inflection point, one of those many moments like the NCAA viewership, like the volleyball event that recently happened. We've seen all these moments, including some of the ones that were referenced about Megan Rapinoe's game here a couple of weeks ago, that there is this opportunity to celebrate what happens when we invest in women. And in fact, yeah, what was reported by Sportico recently is that all of our team valuation numbers were publicized, and I think the lowest valuation was in the 40s million, and the highest valuation was 180 million for Angel City. And I can tell you that when I came into this role 18 months ago, the last team that was sold by the league was sold for $5 million. And so we embarked on a journey to really reset the benchmark of what a valuation should be for a team in the NWSL, and ran a process. And as a lawyer, as a former lawyer, I always say process matters, structure matters, and learned that despite what people had told me, which is, well, if it sold for $5 million, I can't imagine paying anything in the double digits. through this process, we learned that we had multiple bidders in the 50s million, and we sold our last 2 expansion teams for over $50 million, which is incredible. And so, and with quality investors. And so what that teaches us is the old adage, if you build it, they will come, and they are coming. And like in men's sports, as we have seen, it takes decades to build a business model around investing in sports. This is a long-term investment play. It's the reason the Professional Sports League has historically sold teams or attracted and unified with family offices as opposed to other kinds of investors, because the idea is that it's intergenerational, because the expectation is that it's going to take a really long time for it to make sense from a P&L perspective, and that the ROI is actually in the enterprise value in the franchise. And for some reason, which I can't explain, in women's sports, the expectation was different, that there was this like magic ATM machine that was going to appear when they invest in women's sports, and it's not coming, so it doesn't make business sense. Now, I understand the logic of wanting an immediate return on your investment, but that is not our industry. There are industries that you can invest in, men and women, that are men and women led, that might have an immediate return on the investment, but that is not the business of sport. The business of sport takes a really long time, mostly because the most successful leagues like the NFL and the NBA now have media money that is funding the growth and providing that return on investment for our teams or for their teams. And so we're now on that escalator, and we're starting to see it turn in a much quicker time frame than I think anyone imagined.
Well, and the CBA was signed in 2022, and that changes the landscape just a little bit because it allows you to attract different types of talent, or maybe international talent. How does that all work together to strengthen the league?
Yeah, and I'm a labor lawyer, and so I believe in the power of athletes and the power of partnership with our players, who actually are our product. Our players are our product. They are the most important element of our business, and having a collective bargaining agreement creates, for those who don't know and for those who aren't like labor lawyers and don't find that particularly interesting, a CBA, which you might often see when you hear about the business of sports, actually creates the minimum standards of terms and conditions of employment for players. And since they work on behalf of the league for many teams, this is the opportunity for the league to say to players, to teams, hey, you can negotiate potentially in most circumstances in excess of this, but this is sort of the baseline of what you have to give to a player if they're going to show up in your work environment. And the reason this is important in sports is because it creates that level playing field, but it's particularly important in women's sports because we know that corners get cut in this space because of the systemic issues facing women and girls. And so being a league that, and having the opportunity to sign the first ever CBA was an incredible honor. And sadly, as we collaborate with leagues across the world, women's leagues across the world, in women's soccer in particular, we've learned that we are one of the only leagues that actually has a collective bargaining agreement. And so there are no minimum standards, in fact, and players are changing in porta potties and are being asked to play and practice in parks, not in proper fields, and don't have uniforms and have holes in their cleats. And so while I'm not proud of using that as our selling point, because it should never be anywhere that those things are what's being offered to professional athletes. In fact, it is an opportunity for us to say to the best athletes in the world who may or may not be from America, you can come here and know that these are the minimum standards, and it's the league's job to ensure that those minimum standards are met.
Sandy, when we talk about investing in people, I am fascinated by the caregiver survey that came about as a result of the pandemic. When you saw a mass exodus of women from the industry, what's the thing that surprised you most about the survey results?
Yeah, absolutely. And like so many companies across the world and in this room, we did have that mass exodus of people in the workforce, not just women, but others during the Great Resignation. We actually turned over a third of our workforce during that period. So we conducted this working caregiver survey because I wanted to deeply understand of our caregivers on our team, what they were really going through, men and women, childcare, elder care, self-care. Did our employees feel seen? Did they feel supported by us and our offerings? Were they anticipating burnout because of caregiving? Did they think that their caregiving circumstances were sustainable for the next 6 months? Did they think anytime in the next 3 years they would become a caregiver if they were not already? And honestly, all of us will be a caregiver at some point in our lives if we're not already. And caregiving is one of the most stressful things that you'll ever go through. So we engaged a partner, CareLoop, and every single one of our employees now has a care coach that will help them navigate their caregiving journey, whatever that looks like. It could be as simple as I relocated from South Florida to Dallas, Texas, and I need someone to find all of my new providers that accept my insurance. Like, they do all that for me. I don't have to spend time on that. All the way up to some very serious and tragic caregiving situations that have occurred in so many of our families. So it was a very enlightening survey, and our people opened up and they told us things that we wouldn't find from traditional HR benefits data about, are there presence of children in the household? Let's go a lot deeper on that, and we did, and it was so worthwhile.
Have you already been able to see the benefits of that?
Absolutely. Benefits in terms of retention, productivity, and also it illuminated a pathway and a need for us to add more to our offering. We added more in the mental wellness space. We added more in the health and fitness space. We also rolled out an employee volunteer program. Our employees get volunteer time off now that's paid to go and volunteer in the community. They get so much back from that volunteer experience. So that working caregiver survey turned into all of these other things for us and provided a lot of inspiration in that space when we think about our people as whole people. Very much a departure from a traditional benefits offering.
Absolutely. And when we talk about people, we have talked about the number of people that have attended women's events, and quite honestly, I hope that stops being a headline sometime soon. But I do think it begs the question, when you are trying to grow women's sports, do you need media first or do you need fans first? Do you start with fans hoping to get media attention, or do you get media attention hoping to bring fans in?
Yeah, well, it is a virtuous cycle, right? And right now we feel like we're finally feeding that cycle in a positive way. What has historically been true is that the media have defaulted to the negative stories around women's sports and to focus on the things off the field, off the court that are dramatic and pulling at the heartstrings of people in their homes. We are finally in a space where people are talking about the action on the pitch, and that is feeding an interest from media partners. And while I can't break news here today, I am really proud to say that we are going to be in a new media deal for next season, for the 2024 season. And when we talk about media deals, we're talking about distribution of our live games. Where can you watch the NWSL? Right now, all of our games live with CBS, and we have used that as a platform to really redefine the accessibility, the discoverability of our league, and we are going to be in a position to be able to provide that widespread access that will feed the kind of media coverage that will continue the virtuous cycle of growth.
Okay, so you can't break news today. Can you tell us when we are watching for some news? Because I hear some murmurs of excitement, so give me a timeline.
Yes, well, first I have to thank the Sports Commission for highlighting, if you support women and live in Seattle, which I think everybody in this room, yes, check. Tonight, is a playoff game, and I thank you for adding to my competitiveness of efficiency in that I agreed to speak on this panel before I knew the Reign were going to be playing tonight, and it's like, yes,
so good,
yes, worth the trip, double. So come in person. There are still tickets available. Maybe we could even break the record that we broke a few weeks ago, or watch on CBS on Paramount Plus. So that's what you can do in the short term. Our championship is on November 11th, the second year in a row that we're on prime time, Saturday night. Our game will be in San Diego. Last year we had almost a million viewers up against Game 1 of the World Series and college football, so we're really proud of that. We want to continue to grow, and our announcement will be just before that.
Just
so
before
pay attention.
that.
Pay attention.
I do think there are people that want to applaud the fact that there's an announcement coming, right?
Yes.
Yes. Anytime we have a chance to affect change or to innovate or to do things like that, you've got to be really present. You've got to be aware of what's going on. And sometimes you just have to get out of your own way. There is a quote on my desk at the studio that says, "It's not who we are that holds us back, it's who we think we're not." Here's how else you could say that. Yes, but. Sandy, how does this prevent the sport from growing, those two words, and prevent women from stepping into larger roles in golf?
That yes, but has certainly been a barrier or a challenge in terms of growing women's participation in the sport of golf. And I was sharing with Jen that so often when I ask a woman if she plays golf, she may say yes, but invariably she says but I'm not any good, but I don't consider myself a golfer. There's this immediate caveat. Instead of just saying, yes, I play, yes, I am a golfer. And I haven't necessarily observed that in other sports. Granted, I'm not asking individuals about other sports, I'm focused on golf. But there's just the caveat and we downplay ourselves. And part of that may be the golf that we see on television, the women's and men's professional golfers. Yes, they are elite athletes playing at a very high level. So maybe that's where the mind goes, like, yes, I play, but I'm not that. And there's this perception in golf that everyone's good. And there's a perception even at the PGA of America that all of our employees play and that we're all good. That's not the case. Golf comes in a wide variety of shapes and sizes and packages, and I don't come from a golf background, and I've had an incredible 28-year career in the business of golf. I do play now, and I love and enjoy it, but there's that caveat that invariably comes out, and I don't know what is at the root of it. Instead of just, I'm a golfer, I play.
Well, I think it's the insecurity, and we're going to wrap this up here, but we are going to take about 3 minutes to wrap up this conversation, and we are going to end it with some encouragement, and we are going to switch those words around, because you say that, and I know exactly where that comes from. I think every leader has the yes, but. I hear it so much more often from women. Yes, but. And I will tell you what my yes, but is in just a second. I'm going to put you gals on the spot. I want your yes, buts. Here's my yes, but. And my heart has been pounding sitting here thinking about this. You want to know what my yes, but is?
Yes.
Yeah, I talk on TV for a living, but nobody actually cares what I have to say. Mm-hmm. Now, some of that is because people have actually told me that growing up, but they didn't mean that. You know how else that comes across? Talks too much on every single report card I ever got. So somewhere along the line, I internalized, I know, I told you, it fits my skill set, but I internalized that nobody cares what I have to say. Jessica, what's your yes, but?
My yes, but probably lives more in my personal space, or the intersection between personal and professional. For those of us who are working parents in the room, there's a lot of, I carry, even though I don't want to, and I know I shouldn't, and I believe that what I'm doing is great, the yes but for me is the sacrifice at home and the fear that I'm not giving my own family what I'm giving to the rest of the world. So that's my yes but I've also tried to reframe it with an and. And actually, if you just substitute, I know we talked about this a little, if you substitute the and, it actually works and it's incredible. I tell my children all the time, if you say, I'm sorry, but, you've undone the sorry. Whatever you're about to say can be with an and. I'm sorry, and here's the reason why it happened. That you want to explain what happened, but when you say but, you have essentially nullified your apology. So we, in my family, we do both can be true and, both can be true. And I've actually been trying to, there's some people from the NWSL in the room, they know. I talk about both can be true a lot. A lot of both can be true.
I love that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So well said. Mine's a little bit heart-pounding too. I mentioned that I've had a nearly 28-year career in the business of golf, which is incredible. But I do have additional career aspirations. You know, there's other things that I want to do. Maybe they're in golf, or maybe they're outside of golf. Maybe they're in sport, maybe not. So I have these conversations in my head about, yes, I could go do that and pursue that, but is anyone going to be interested in me because I've been in one sport, one vertical, largely one company for my career? Instead of saying yes, and I've worked all around the business at the PGA of America. I have countless transferable skills. So there's this constant conversation in my head about yes, but, yes, and. Yeah,
So here's the
career-wise.
challenge today. Ladies, stand up with me because we're getting ready to exit the stage. Stand up with me.
It's fun.
I just want to point out that these are powerhouse women on the stage. And they have yes buts that we are now changing to yes ands. So the challenge for you today is every time you start saying yes but, I want you to replace it with a yes and. My gratitude for being vulnerable and for sharing your stories
Thank
with
you.
us. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.